It is Monday. What's up? Thank you guys for joining me right here on What's Up 411. Very, very excited. The month is just rolling out and great things are happening. Great things are happening. So, again, I'd just like to thank you guys for popping on. It's October 12th. We are mid-month. And of course, as you know, I would just first of all like to encourage you to start planning. This is a planner I got from Esther. Great planner. Knowledge is power. This is for the last quarter. And as you can see, I've been getting in. I've been tabbing my pages, been doing my thing, been writing in here, making some goals and plans for the end of the month. And then, of course, for the end of the year, so for the end of this quarter. So, very excited about that. What else is going on? There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, guys. Like a lot with 416 Club. There's a lot of changes going to be happening. I feel like there was a season, and things are changing. Things are changing. So I'm really excited to announce that we are doing a bunch of different things, and we have a great on tonight's show. So we can't wait to get the conversation on and pop in, of course, right here. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. About yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. What's going on?
Nothing. Just making water right now.
You're making water?
Yeah,
How do you make water?
I have a John Ellis machine, so
Okay.
they use it at cancer facilities that they don't tell nobody about. But I have this machine, and it helps like purify your water and change like the hydrogen and oxygen bond angle. So it actually like helps kill cancer and other diseases and
Really?
disorders in your body that they're not going to tell you, but they use it in submarines. They use the machine in the military. They use it overseas, but they use it at a cancer this was it Sloan Cancer Facility, or I forgot
Mm,
the name, but I'll remember it later on. But they use it there, and instead of giving people like radiation, they give them this. They make them drink this water, and you got to eat like natural foods and fruits and
wow.
vegetables and stuff. So instead of giving you a carcinogen to kill a carcinogen, which doesn't make sense,
Right.
they just give you water. Water is life. So, just little things.
Jeez.
So I gotta,
So you're getting your water on right now.
yeah, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna let the machine work. So as you see, like the kitchen light and everything, I just need to make sure the
Okay.
water level stays at a certain point, and then I can walk away from it. But I'm good. I'm ready to rock when
And
I'm
so
ready.
so talk to me about this machine though. Where did you get that? How do you
Um,
get your hands on that?
my mom used to work for the government, so she has all kinds of connections. So she actually
Okay.
found out about this machine, and I just went online. It's like it cost me 2,500. Yeah,
That's not that expensive.
it's not. I mean, for what it's done or for what it did for me, because on my leg I had like I guess like where I work, we're exposed to stuff all the time. So
Right.
that electromagnetic field or whatsoever. So we're always exposed to like cancer causing stuff that we don't know about until you get ready to retire or
Right.
whatever. And then they send out a newsletter saying, if you're exposed to this, call us. Well, shit, you're already dead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cuss.
Wow.
Um,
That's okay.
but I went on this website. It's called johnellis.com. And I just looked it up. And he has documentation. It's documentation. You
Wow.
can't beat that. He can't really say it cures cancer, but the energy from that water, I had these little black spots. They looked like moles on my leg, and they
Hmm.
were raised, and they were like almost like a mole growing, but it was like a bump, and I had it for a while. I've had it for some years, and it just appeared, and I never really. I was like, man, what is it? It itched when it first came. So then when I got this machine, within let's say 2 weeks of drinking this water. I just happened to be in the shower, washing my dirty self. And man, I went to scrub my leg and I just, I looked and I was like, that bump, where's that bump at? Because I didn't just have one on my right leg, I had one on my calf on my left leg. And I looked at
Wow.
that one and it was down to the point where it was flat and flush with my skin, and it started to turn back to my natural, like the color I am right now, like a reddish brown. It turned back to
Yeah.
that color. Like you still see like the outline of where it was, but it went down. And I mean, like my fingernails, my hair on the top of my scalp, it was like thinning. It started to get like thick again. Maybe not grow
Wow.
how we wanted to grow, but for what was there, it had some love. I was like, oh, okay, I could put a brush to it
Wow.
and get some resistance. But I mean, man, it helped me energy wise, and then starting the detox that Oprah is on right now, the 60-day detox. I started that, and I mean, I lost like probably 15 pounds in 30
Wow.
days. On top of the colonics, taking care of yourself, getting yourself an oil change. It's a lot of things. So I stay busy. I try to stay healthy, so I'm able to function with my kids and throw the
For
football,
sure.
play basketball, and just be active. Energy levels through the roof. You being I say like a 43-year-old male. Normally you hear stories about guys needing the pill to be who they used to be. But I can honestly tell you, like, I started to go through that phase for a minute where I thought, I was like, man, I might need that. But then once I got on, like, man, let me just clean my system out. Let me get some of this water, start making it. I bought the machine. I started cleansing, doing colonics. And a lot of black men don't know, like, if you don't get a colonics, however old you are, that's how much junk you got in your system. So, if you're 40 years old, men and women, if you're 40 years old, you got 40 years worth of waste in your system. Now, yes, you might use the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day, but you'll be surprised what is laying on your intestines, because along your intestinal wall, there's cilia, and those are like little hairs. They're microscopic, but they actually attach to the food and absorb the nutrients for your body, even multivitamins, right? But if you have drinking soda and you have high fructose corn syrup, which is in a lot of sodas and drinks and syrup and all that, it lines your intestines and coats it. So it actually blocks it from being able to absorb anything. So you got to cleanse, and you got to give yourself an oil change. And like I said, one of my friends turned me on to the colonics, and man, my stomach, I went to the gym all the time. I ran, all of that. But I didn't eat like steak and pork and all that, but I ate chicken and stuff. And man, my stomach would never go down. It would never, you could see the outline of the 8-pack, but it'd be like kind of distended. And I'd be like, man, what am I doing? So when I went and got that, my stomach went from here to here in a day. I mean, well, within 45 minutes of that. And when you started the stuff come out, you're like, dang, I saw a piece of steak that came out of my intestines that I ate 12 years ago. And it had like a green mossy type of thing wrapped around it, like it had a growth on top of it. I saw a granola bar that had a green mossy type of growth on it that was in my intestines somewhere. We don't know that. They're not going to give us that medicine, but like that is your medicine. If you get a colonics and you follow through with it, you got to do 3 initially to break your system in. But then once that happens and you try to eat better, man, when I tell you, like, so much stuff has come out to the point where, let's just say after the first one, I was 20 years old after that.
So what is the colonics like exactly? Is it just a something that you take, or is it just a different eating habit? Like, what is it?
Colonics is where they a closed circuit colonics is where they take a little plastic tube, they hook it to a hose to a machine, and that machine supplies the water or whatsoever. But that little hose, the little tube, it's about, I say like your finger. But, you know, for the men, so you don't feel like, you know, sensitive, they only go to like the second mid digit. So let's just say, you know, it's 2 inches, and they got to put that in your hole, your exit.
Right.
So
Yep.
they put it in your exit, and then
Yep.
they flush your intestines with water, room body temperature water. You don't really feel it. You just like, oh, and then once you get enough in there, you might feel like you got to poop. So then they release the knob, and it flushes your system. So you're getting water, you're using water, clean water, and it goes in your system, and it's cleaning off the walls of your intestines. It's basically rejuvenating your whole system. So think about having disease, since we're in the coronavirus era, right? Think about having a disease, and your immune system has to fight that disease that you may not know about. You may not find out until you're like 65 or 75, when it's too late. But there's a disease in your system, in your stomach. Like Dr. Sebi say, everything starts, all diseases start in your gut. So think about a disease that's just festering, and you don't know it. It's just there. This goes in, flushes it out. So now your immune system doesn't have to fight that disease. If there's like the common cold or the flu or coronavirus, now your immune system can fight that one disease altogether. Boom, knock it out and be done with it. It frees up your body. A lot of people get sick because their immune system is broken up, like having an army. So when you got an army, if the army goes over here and part of it goes over there, it's weakened. But if it's together and it's fighting in sections, it's strong. So the colonics is what frees up your immune system to fight everything else. I mean, like, man, if I started taking vitamins, when I would take multivitamins in the beginning before I got a colonics, the vitamins would come out dark yellow, you know, in my urine. And this is me drinking a lot of water too. But I would get, you know, a lot of dark yellow urine because the vitamins weren't always absorbing. So once I got the colonics, my urine would come out like faint yellow when I started taking my multivitamins, because my body started absorbing more of the nutrients. Along with the John Ellis water, that helped too, but the colonics freed up all those spots in my intestine that were clogged. And I mean, man, when I tell you, like, I don't suffer from the same disorders that normal 40-year-old men suffer from. We don't have none of those problems. Like, I go to the gym, I can lift. Strength-wise, I don't need to take proteins because your body already produces enough protein for you to survive throughout the day, for you to go to the gym, because your stomach lining gets broken down every morning that you wake up, and that is protein for your body. So in doing the colonics, I was able to see protein shakes that I used to take back in the day. I saw those come out. They don't turn to anything but sediment and sludge. So it looks like a mud run that's coming down the tube. I kid you not. Your body doesn't need that much protein, because if you take too much protein, it has nowhere to go. So in turn, you start getting things like breast cancer, or you see different forms of cancer forming over. That's the protein building up in that spot of your body. It turns into a tumor or whatsoever. Sometimes malignant, sometimes benign, but it depends on also the type of food that you're eating also. You know, the nutrients that you put in your body determines how your body responds and how it takes care of you later on in life. Got a whole bunch going on. But any more questions?
Jeez. You were talking about Opa too. She's on a 60-day, right? You were saying, what's that 60-day one?
It's from Upful
Detox.
Blends. The company is called Upful Blends, UPFUL Blends. It's a black-owned company. She's a black woman. She mixes these herbs. As you see, I got, you know, Chai for the body, or Chi for the body. Got all kind of stuff, man. Food for the blood. You know, I'm making some right now, but I bought extra stuff too. So I've been buying everything that she comes out. She has them set up where whether it's for a man or a woman, but a lot of the stuff it's just natural and organic, straight from earth. And
Right.
60 days, I did 30 days already. I'm on my 38th day right now. But you drink the tea
Okay.
a couple times, 2 to 3 times a day, and you drink it throughout the day. And since I work outside and whatsoever, I'll drink that tea, and I don't really have the urge to like have to eat. I'm not starving or whatsoever. On top of that,
Right.
I'm drinking at least a gallon of water a day, so my body is
Mm.
getting, the amount of hydration. I might eat once, maybe twice a day, but it's nothing
Okay.
too big. And that's just because my
Mm.
appetite went down. My activity didn't go down. It probably
Right.
went up, but my appetite went down. And
Mm.
I mean, man, like there's so many things that you could do that could take you away from all the medications that the medical field pushes on people. And to be honest, and this is not just me, this is from a source that deals with the medical field. There's no medication on this planet that is good for you, that's man-made, that comes from a pharmaceutical company. There's nothing. It's a band-aid.
Mm.
So say you got a liver issue and they give you this medication. You come in there, they give you this medication. That's a band-aid for that liver. But then you
Right.
got all the side effects that come along with it. So then you got to come back in and get another medication. So you're taking
Right.
two. And, it just piles on to where you got a whole grocery bag full of medications. And before you know it, that band-aid that you've been putting on that one issue, you got a snowball effect of other things that come down the pipeline. When in
Right.
actuality, if you just drink, clean water, uh, preferably spring water, because it still has a lot of the minerals and nutrients from the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and you detox your system. It's little things. It's nothing that's going to cost you like $1 million. Yes,
Right.
some of the stores charge you an arm and a leg to eat healthy, but sometimes that stuff isn't even healthy. Some of the substitute stuff isn't even healthy for you because that's, manufactured in a plant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. It's just a lot. It's a whole lot going on.
And what do you think about like boiled water? Because a lot of us can't get the water off of, like we take the water out of the tap and then boil it. Do you think that's good, or what do you think about that?
Well, with my John Ellis machine, I mean, maybe I can just swap over and show it to you.
Okay.
So this machine right here, this is
Wow.
the John Ellis machine. It has a boiler, and there's these two things are lights. They're, what do you call them? It goes into a teapot. So it
Um,
cycles through. It gets sucked into that little thing right there. That hose
hmm.
goes into the boiler, the steam, and I forgot what those lights are called. They disinfect the light. I mean, they disinfect the water or whatsoever. And then it cycles through this little tube right here, and it comes out right here. So
Wow.
after this water, like once it boils enough, once there's so much, and this is going through a RO machine under my sink. So I have a RO machine too with a tank. So
Wow.
that's going through the whole machine. And in the bottom of that, there'll be sediment or whatsoever, like crystallized sediment, black or whatever, even going through this machine, even after coming through the RO machine, being filtered with like, I think I have 12 filters that it runs through. There's still sediment that builds up in the bottom of this machine um, after all the water is boiled off or whatsoever. So imagine using that tap water and boiling it. That doesn't really work because you got to remember that
Yes.
water that you get from the water facility, it has chlorine, it runs through all these
Yes.
pipes, and it's recycled. It's not just coming to you from one source. A lot of that water that runs down
Hmm.
your drain goes back in there, and it goes through little filters here and there. but it has to be treated. So then you have fluoride in the water. And remember, like fluoride, that absorbs in your skin, which makes you docile. Which when you put it on in toothpaste, it makes you docile. You don't really think about it, but it affects your aggressive nature. So when you always want to turn the cheek and when you should fight, it's all, everything is scientific. From your toothpaste down to your soap, down to the water that constantly comes in through your pipes and you take a shower in. Just think about when you get out the shower and your skin is dry, super dry. You just got out of water. And normally water, you're supposed to feel wet. You're not supposed to feel dry. But it's almost like you're taking a shower or you're drinking water from the pool that everybody and their mom has been in, and you know, the oils and everything. So you need machines that, boil the water, but you need them to disinfect that water also. And boiling it isn't going to disinfect everything. You're still going to get that sediment that's still going to be at the bottom of that water. You might burn off some of the water and some of the chemicals, but they're still in that water that you pull from your sink. Because if that worked, then the people in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, they wouldn't be crying about the issues with their water.
Very true.
Because they could have just boiled it and cleaned off everything. But, you know, that's an old folk tale. It may work out in, like, say you caught up in the woods and you get some water out of the river. Yeah, because there's no chlorine or anything. There's just natural elements. You might burn off some of that stuff. But now you're messing with a chemical plant that is getting your water and delivering it to you through the pipes. And it's not like they're flushing the pipes. They probably haven't flushed these pipes in decades.
True.
So think about, you know, people want to use that water from the sink. Oh, just get that water from the sink and make rice. Okay. That's why your rice is a little crunchy.
Oh, excuse me.
No, bless you.
Excuse me. So scary sneezing outside now in public. Oh my gosh, everybody's like, oh, get away from me.
Oh my God, she got corona. No, she's a human being. Something went up in her nose. She had to sneeze.
Right? Esther is online here. What's up, Esther? She has a question for you. She's like, so if you filter the water with a Brita filter and also boil it, it's not enough? I don't know.
I mean, the Brita filter is, you know, it's a single pass filter. And just remember, like, all that water that you might filter in that Brita filter, everything that was in that water that Brita filter caught, it's not going to catch everything. So every time you pass water through there, that water is taking some of that stuff that you supposedly filtered from the last gallon you poured in that Brita filter. It's bringing it down with it and running it right into where you're gonna boil it off. I would say if you want to do anything that might really help you, is to get you like a 12-stage RO machine where you can get under your sink. They might be a little pricey, maybe $600 to put up under your, or $400. Actually, I think they're $450, and I'll get that information to you. I'll send it to you in the Instagram message. I'll get the company, because they also have a shower filter that I use also, and that shower filter, it takes all the chemicals. It catches all those chemicals that come out, so you don't have to worry about. And I'm telling you, like, when I get out the shower, I'll take a 30-minute shower and come out, and my skin won't be dry or tight. There'll be no streaks or anything. And I'll put lotion on, but it's my natural skin. It's not a filter with chemicals. I feel better, sleep better, just a better all-around person. As a matter of fact, like, my aggressiveness is, back up. As far as, if you don't own a home, I'm not sure you can install however. Like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm in an apartment right now. I punched a hole in the sink. I drilled a hole in the sink. It wasn't a natural hole. But if you go to, I'm actually moving in a few months to my house, but If you go to the Home Depot or Lowe's, you can get the little caps that are like chrome top, and you can plug that hole. So just make a way. Just make a way. You can plug that hole, and it'll be like it was never there. And if they say something, by the time they catch it, you already gone. Remember.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we just started talking, but you definitely want to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and just a little bit about yourself.
My name is Damion. Currently, I'm a journeyman lineman for the power company out here. We call it Southern California Edison. So I mess with electricity, high voltage, 16,000 volts, 12,000 volts, 4,000. You know, the power that comes to your house, I'm usually the one that's either turning it on or turning it off, and you're screaming at me in the middle of the night. I went to Cal State Fullerton, studied business, got bored my junior year because I realized they weren't really teaching me how to be my own businessman. They were teaching me how to work for somebody else that owned a business. That's a whole nother story. Got out of college, moved to Georgia, lived out there in the country. Man, loved it. I liked the rain. I liked the lightning. I'm going to tell you a funny story real quick before I go any further.
Okay.
So my first time out there, we live in California, which is a desert. My first time out there, I was living with my girlfriend, and we were asleep, and it was kind of raining, early, and I passed out, and then all of a sudden I heard this loud, like, boom. I thought it was a bomb, right? So I jumped up and jumped on top of her, and I'm covering her head like we're in Vietnam or something, right? And I'm covering her head, and she wakes up and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, you didn't hear that? You didn't hear that explosion? She was like, oh, that's thunder. Are you afraid of thunder? Man, had me cracking up. She talked about me for about a good 2 weeks because I had never heard thunder like that. And that was my introduction to Georgia. But a great experience, man. I think one of the best times of my life. If you're on here and you're a young man or a young woman, like, don't be afraid to travel and live in different places, because the planet is bigger than the little city that you live in. But and there's so many different elements to life that you must explore in order for you to have experience. So when you have kids, you can tell them about things. You can explain things. You may not know everything, but it's just life. So living in Georgia, I worked for FedEx. I transferred back out here because I wanted to be a firefighter in the city I grew up in, Los Angeles. And that didn't work out. And I wound up working for the railroad. And that was cool. I got to work with everybody that worked with me was felons. I was the only person that wasn't a felon. But I loved it, man, because I was like one of the guys, I wasn't afraid of nobody. And to be honest, like, people that go to jail and go to prison, they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Some of us get caught, some of us don't.
That's right.
Some of us pay a price in a different way, in a different experience.
100%.
So working with these guys, they hardened criminals. The guy I got hired with had just got out. He did 14 years in the feds, and we was like best buddies. And, we're talking and just working, and man, it was like one of the greatest experiences. And so then I got laid off 2008, and I ended up at a trade school learning how to climb poles. And to be honest, just looking up the pole, a 35-foot pole, was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? But with that being said, I persevered, and I ended up working for the utility out there in Los Angeles. And then I got hired on with the utility that I'm at right now as a groundman, progressed, became an apprentice, became a lineman. And now, like, I got a ticket. If I want to go work in Russia, I can go work in Russia. The only barrier that I have
Wow.
is language. I can go anywhere on this planet and work with electricity as a lineman. They'll hire me. So I got something like
Wow.
international ticket to do work, you know, if I want to do that. Um,
That's awesome.
so while working and being a lineman, uh, I had like, I'll say like a midlife crisis in my 30s because I didn't understand, like, yeah, I was making money, but I wasn't really seeing it. And then, you know, sometimes I didn't like getting out of bed and having to drive 150 miles a day, you know, 75 miles one way and 75 miles back home, to
Right.
go to work. And we were doing 32-hour shifts with 8-hour breaks in between. So I was a zombie most of the time driving home. I've fallen asleep driving, didn't know how I got home sometimes. I fell asleep at the exit. But my kids at the time were small, and I remember like being home, and I came home late, late in the night or early in the morning, and I fell asleep. So when I woke up, they were up eating breakfast or whatsoever, and they were like, "Dad, what are you doing here?" You know, that kind of question. I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And you know, I was just going to the car. Mind you, I'm in a t-shirt and some shorts. I'm just going to my car. I'm off. Um,
Yeah.
and I was going to the car, and my oldest at the time, he could talk. My youngest couldn't talk yet because he was still somewhat of a baby, but he can make all kind of noise.
Right.
And um, he was like, "Are you leaving? Are you going back to work?" And that was the moment where I was like, "No, I don't think I need to be doing
Mm.
this too much longer." So I was willing to quit. I was going to quit my job and just find something else to do, even though I'm making really good money. Um, I was going to quit my job, but I was like, nah. So I talked to my mom, and she was like, "Look, why don't you just start reading, you know, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, try that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I read it, and I was captivated by it. Even though it didn't tell me everything that I was looking for, it was just telling
Right.
me a story, you know, about a rich dad and a poor dad. And I knew my mindset started to change because I ended up taking a leave of absence from work for 5 months. And my friend gave me the movie called uh, uh, the The Secret, and I watched this
Right.
movie for all 5 months, at least 3 times a day. Sometimes I would turn it on just to take a nap, so I could hear it subconsciously.
Hmm.
And I started to apply some of the things that they would say in there, and it started to happen. Like, you know, not going
Right.
to the mailbox. I used to be afraid to go to the mailbox because they had a bill in it. So I stopped
Right.
thinking about bills, and I started getting garbage in the mail, and the bills started to go away. And it was like, it was really, you know, happening. So once I got through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I read Think and Grow Rich, and
Yeah.
I started, you know, just changing the people that I hung out with or that I conversed with. And
Yeah.
I was praying and just asking, you know, like the universe, like, man, bless me with something or an opportunity in which it can take me to another place, and I can, you know, have my own business and operate and be able to spend more time with my kids. So I'm riding motorcycles, and I just bought this other motorcycle. It was used, and I took it to this guy's house. It was
Right.
introduced to me by my painter, and he was like, "Hey, I got a guy. He'll tear your bike down, give him $1,400, and he'll build it back up for you." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I went over to his house, and he broke my bike down, and I went over there to visit, and I was like, "Man, it looks like I gotta buy all kind of new stuff." And he was like, "Well, just come back tomorrow, and we'll see what you need to buy." So I came back the next day, and the same thing, same parts that I was holding were super clean, as if they were brand new. And I was like, "Well, what did you use?" And so he broke out
Mm.
Oil Off, which is one of my, which is my main product that we have. But he broke it out, and I was like, "Oh, where'd you get that from?" He was like, "The chemist." I was like, "Okay." So we're talking, and I was like, "Well, we need to meet the chemist because that
Mm.
is what we need. is he selling it? He was like, no, he just made it for us. I was like, we need to go and talk to him. So we went over there. We had car wax, took that, and the car wax actually came out to be like napalm because it was the same, same formulation. And so he took that from us and was like, look, if you guys are really want to do business, then take this and see what you can do with it. So we promoted it.
Right.
And, and that's how I got into business with that. And now we're to the point where we've turned that whole product over to where it's a completely green product. So it's all plant-based. And we call it Pure Ride.
Yeah.
We got a website up now. It's called pureride.com.
Hey.
It's a PURIDE.com. But you'll have to, you can't pre-order right now. We just got it up. We still getting the rest of the buttons up. But that's where we're at, man. And for me, that's how I got on the journey of entrepreneurship. And then with that, I was like, look, I want to do real estate also, but I don't want to have to ask any realtor to look up property for me. So I went and got my real estate license just so I could have access to, all the properties and be able to talk to a realtor face to face without having to jump through hoops and waste other people's time. I can just go directly to the source, or I can be the source. So I got to wait a couple more years and I'm gonna get my broker's license and I don't have to answer to anybody. So we can, do other things. But I don't know, man, I just try to do everything I can. I got 2 boys that look up to me. So it's my job. Because we had, I just came back from Arizona today and my son, both of them, we were eating breakfast at like 11 o'clock at night. They were hungry. And I was sitting by the pool and they were like, we hungry, Dad. I said, okay, let's go. And we ended up sitting at the table. We were talking about business. We were talking about taxes. I was letting them know like, hey man, this is how much I make. I showed them my check and they were like, really? I'm like, look, as an employee, I had to break it down. As an employee, you're going to pay a certain amount of taxes. They're going to go all the way up in you. So you got to operate like a business. You got to get over here on the business and investor side of the SB principle. And my youngest was like, yeah, Dad, I remember that principle. I saw you posted that one time. I was like, you follow me? He was like, all the time. I was like, okay. So to me, like, for my kids, you don't think your kids really pay attention to you. I know I'm going off board, but you don't really think your kids.
No, it's important.
And you always feel like, man, I keep repeating this. I keep saying this to you. You're not getting it. Yeah. And, but when you sit down and you just take a moment from everything else going on in life and you just have a conversation with them and you let them speak freely and just express themselves, you start to see like they're listening, they're paying attention. Right. Because as parents, we get impatient because we want the kid to get it right now. Like, you heard me, do it right now. But in their mind, they're like, yeah, you just dad, you just mom, whatever. You ain't here to hurt me, so I ain't worried about you. There's no pressure. But it made me feel good because here we are at 11 o'clock at night at Waffle House, and we're talking about taxes. I'm talking to a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. And here I am, 43, talking to a 12 and a 10-year-old. And I'm like, man, I wish that my dad had that knowledge and shared it with me at that time of my life. Because I would be so far ahead, I wouldn't have to play catch up, which I'm kind of feel like I'm leveling out, but there's still so much more to learn. But I would have had a jump start because there are so many kids that you wonder, like, man, how do you get this house and you're 18 and how do you know about stocks and bonds and IULs and insurance and how to taxes and stuff, and you don't understand. You're like, who taught you? But you're not knowing that their family practices that stuff. That's what they practice. That's their thing. So I make my kids during the summer. I was like, look, man, I have financial books, banking books, and hold on, I'll get one and I'll show you. 1 second.
Okay. Right? Like, This is super information that we're getting here today from Damion.
I'm back. So
Okay.
we have these books, Dictionary of Real Estate Terms,
Okay, yes.
um, Dictionary of Finance and Investment Terms. See the company,
Perfect.
Barron's. That's the
Burns.
company. Dictionary of Banking Terms. You want to know, I try to tell my kids, like, you want to know all these things. You want to know as many of these terms as possible, because when people write contracts, my kids want to play, my youngest wants to play pro soccer and my youngest wants to play pro football. So I'm like, look, you don't need a lawyer. You don't need an agent. You can write your own contract, but at
That's
least
right.
be able to understand the words that are being presented
Right.
to you in that contract, so that you're not sitting there like,
Mhm.
and just signing your life away and you get nothing in the
That's
end.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
those are things that I try to instill on them. So I make them write, I'll randomly pick a word out of this book or out of all four, and it'll be 10 words. And I'm like, give me the whole definition. I want you to write it down, and I want you to come read it to me. That's just little extra knowledge, because I don't know everything. And at least they can have a head start on their other friends, and maybe, wear off on their other friends. Or if they have friends that are wealthy and understand that stuff, then they don't go in seeming, say, lost. So nobody plays
Mm-hmm.
you like you're lost. Now they talk to you like you
That's
know
right.
what's going on. And if you ask a question,
That's
it's
right.
not because you're stupid. It's because you just want to know a little more. And so they're more willing to give you the answer, because they already know you
Right.
got the basics and you're not going to be
That's
fooled
right.
and played. So
That's
it's just little things. Um, but I mean, that's just me in a nutshell. I'm just, just I don't know, a single dad, and, living life and trying to, make whatever time I got on this planet as as beneficial as possible to my kids and to anybody else around me. Um, even in this arena that we're playing in, um, with the stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
just take care of yourself, man. Mentally, physically, socially. The company you keep will determine the direction in which your life will go.
I mean, you are just dropping a lot of gems, okay? A lot of information, especially with this speaking to your kids about generational wealth, speaking to your kids about understanding terms, because that's something that's very, very important. A lot of times we can get ourselves into simple contracts, even with our banks,
Mm-hmm.
even with our credit cards, and not understand exactly what we're signing up for. So it's important at 10 and 12 to be seeking out this knowledge and to understand, like, these simple contracts, and then having that information for your children so that they can go to you and say, you know what, Dad, I want to do this. How do I understand this? You have that information there for your children. That is like, that's great.
Yeah,
It is awesome.
but that's
How do you feel? Like, it's so important. It's so important, but like, how does that make you feel? Like, you are doing wonderful things. Like that is that your kids don't probably understand the seriousness of the value of what you're bringing to them right now,
yeah.
but I'm sure in like 10 years they'll be like, "Yo, my dad was the bomb." Like,
I
this
think
is great.
I think it's cool. I just want them to catch on, because I think the
Right.
biggest fear for me, if there's any fear that I have, it'll be that my kids don't maximize their potential, or they don't
Right.
exceed their potential. Maximizing is just you're meeting that bar, but I want you to exceed
Right.
that. I want you to carry on and do better, because when you have kids, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me.
Right.
Find the things that I didn't do right and you fix it. Like for me,
Right.
my dad wasn't around. I saw my dad maybe once every other year, because my dad was out at the club and, you know, chasing women and, just drinking and, doing his thing. But when I
Mm-hmm.
did see him, um, I can't say it was a negative experience because I was already my
Right.
own person at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, so he, you know, he let me be, and I'll give him this, like, he let me be me. My dad never was
Mm-hmm.
like, you need to do it like this. No, he was like, do you, kid? You know, what do you want to eat? You want Gatorade? You want some Funyuns? You know, that type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but growing up with just my mom and my grandmother owned 2 hair salons, and she went to college. She had already graduated from college long before, but she she had business. She had a business, and she
Mm-hmm.
ran 2 hair salons, and she
Right.
never had to ask anybody for any money. Um, she always seemed to have money. She always seemed to be able
Mm-hmm.
to go to Texas, where she's from, and come back with a whole bunch of peanut brittle and peppermint and a shirt with my name on it. And that was like, man, grandma came up, you know. Here's some peppermint,
Yeah.
baby. Go and get some peppermint. That's all I cared about. You know, if my grandmother could buy me chili cheese French fries, oh man, it was on. Um, but I looked up to her. I didn't know I looked up to her, but I paid attention because
Right.
she did everything she could. She had the biggest house in the area that she lived in, Compton, with the front yard. We had peach tree, we had a lemon tree, we had a lime tree, a tangerine tree. We grew collard greens on the side of the wall. She even grew watermelon like right there in the little patch. I was like, okay. Um, so that's kind of where I got like, I want to go and move down south, move back down south and have my own land and do that same stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but you want your kids to succeed. There's so many parents that forget that that's your job, is to
Yeah.
make sure your kids at least max out their potential. That's your job. When you have kids, all the other stuff, clubbing, uh, partying, extra party, yeah, you want a getaway, an adult getaway, because kids gonna drive you crazy. But that's your job. That's your ultimate job, is to make sure that you
Mm-hmm.
give them enough jewels that when they leave and they go off to do their own thing as an adult, that they're not left empty-handed. They don't have nothing to pull from. They don't have no knowledge or
Right.
information to pull from. They can always say, well, my dad got a real estate license and he was a lineman, so I could do whatever I want to do too. You
That's
know,
right.
people get caught up. I guess I would say this coronavirus thing is really good for the Black community too, because you take away that, I guess, that hierarchy or that praise that most people have for people on TV or people in the music industry or athletes. You take that away because you're taking them out of your child's line of view, and they don't think that's the only
Right.
thing that they got to do to make it. So now it makes you have to become resourceful. You know,
That's right.
you got to learn to cook at home. So now you're getting home ec. Okay? You can't go to the restaurant and sit in there, even though you can, but the food just ain't gonna taste the same. You know,
No.
vibe is different. So it means your taste buds are gonna be different. So now
Mm-hmm.
Bobby and Jane, they're gonna have to learn how to cook at home. You know, beans and rice gonna come in real handy. You're gonna make different types of it. Beans and rice tacos,
Mm-hmm.
beans and rice, spaghetti or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to be resourceful. You're gonna have to read. You're gonna have to pay attention to your children. You can't
That's
just
right.
let them run wild. Now it's like, oh, your teacher was right. You are a fool. You losing your mind. You know, I'm gonna have to call your teacher and have a conference with her so she can hear me complain. Because I've gone through that also. Uh, I mean, you just want to you want to give them as much. My mom and my grandmother gave me everything as far as information and knowledge. Now I wanted to make my own decision because I'm an only child, so I was independent from the start. It was like, man, just
Right.
leave him alone because he gonna do what he want to do. That's just him. I'm gonna tell you everything, but you're gonna do what you want to do.
Right.
20 years ago, my mom had told me to get a real estate license, and I said, I want to be a firefighter. Get out of here. Leave me alone. And here I am, 20 years later, 20 years later, I got a real estate license. And when I told her, she was like, about time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
man, you just want to be like, as a parent, man, it's just your job. And I think we
Yeah.
lost sight of that. You know, we wake up in the morning, we leave to go to work, drop the kid off at school. It's the teacher's problem. It's the school's problem.
Hmm.
It's not our
Yeah.
problem. And we don't, it's not, and you can't even look at it like it's a problem now. It's like,
Right.
that's our child. And you're going to make sure that since they're at home and they're studying at home, we're going to put the good info in them. We got to. You got to read this. You can't
Right.
sit and watch TV all day. You can't be on your cell phone. You can't be on the iPad. Here's a book. Figure it out.
Yeah.
You may not
Hmm.
like it now, but you'll thank me later. Trust me. You'll thank me later.
Right.
But I'm listening. Okay.
So what are we lacking as parents too? Like, I mean, as parents, sometimes not obviously not you, but there are parents out there who are almost like we've almost forgotten our roles as parents. We're still out there partying, or we're still out there trying to live for ourselves instead of living for our children. What are we missing?
I mean, I'm missing stuff too. I just don't know what it is all the time. I'll find out eventually. Um, I, I really couldn't tell you what we're missing. I think what we're missing is the fact that nobody told us the truth. When you were in
Mm.
school, they didn't tell you the truth. They didn't tell you about taxes. They didn't tell you about how money really works. They didn't tell you about the games. Because life is a game, like all the way. Life is a game. And unless you get in,
Hmm.
you'll never figure out the rules. Um,
Yeah.
they didn't teach you how to be fearless. They taught you how to fear the police, fear the IRS, you know, fear the president or whatever, you know, the principal. The only people you should fear is the higher up and your parents. And that's it.
Yeah.
But everything else you should respect and you should try to understand. Um,
Oh, I think he's frozen. Let's see if it comes back. Let's give it a minute.
sorry.
Oh,
Uh,
there you are. Go ahead.
uh, I think that, you know, there's so many things like we need to get down to the truth. And I mean, politics, I'm gonna be honest, maybe it's my view, but that's a lie. The
Yeah.
the games that they're playing with us as human beings, we got to understand that we're the majority, and we
Right.
control what we learn and what we intake and what we put out. And
Hmm.
also, we control what our kids learn and don't learn. It's on us.
Right.
I think we didn't learn
Yeah.
responsibility. We learned just live your life and enjoy, because you only got one,
Yeah.
and you know you never know when you're gonna go. Man,
Yeah.
stop living
Yeah.
like that. You already know you don't know when you're gonna go. You don't know how you're gonna go. But just make sure that every day that you are here, that you maximize it. That you make sure that the people that are around you, you show love to, because love will
Hmm.
actually it'll extend your life. It'll extend your legacy. You treat people with respect and you love people, even the people that might not love on you. You love on them. That extends your life. Those are like, it's like playing Mario Brothers, you know, and you get the little coins every time you jump. That jump is like you
Yeah.
jumping for love, and you keep getting those coins,
Yeah.
and that's more money. Then you get a mushroom, so that mushroom gives you more strength and it extends your life, your lifelong, what do you call it, your
Yeah.
livelihood, and that's just how life goes. But if you constantly kick out negativity and holding somebody back, or you know only worried about yourself, that'll shorten your
Hmm.
lifespan. I mean, maybe that's
100%.
just me, but your kids, if you want to be around for your kids, my grandmother lived till she was like 72, but her living that long, it gave her enough time to see some of my cousins, which are younger than me. I'm the oldest grandbaby, but by her always giving out love, it extended her life so she could see her great grandbabies be born or whatsoever. Because some of my cousins had
Yes.
babies a little early. So she got to see great grandbabies. Um, but I mean, man, I think, you know, the thing that we miss is love, man. We got so much hate, so much tear down, so much negative press, even with social media. Like social media does us a great disservice and injustice because it was introduced to
100%.
us, but it wasn't presented to us in a positive state or how it should be actually used. Like we should use
Right.
it to connect, like we're doing right now. We should use it for this,
Uh-huh.
and we should also use it to, you know, see those family members that live way in another, you know, maybe in Africa, Timbuktu, Africa, that have computer access, but we never able to get over there to see them. It should be a means of us connecting with others and, you know, sharing information and love and whatsoever. Because without that, we're all doomed, you know, at the end of the day. But as a parent,
100%.
stay
I
your
think you
ass at
hit the
home.
nail on the head. Right. You hit the nail on the head though, talking about like, first of all, love, because love covers everything. Um, Love is, like, as you said, it extends your life and your legacy. So it's really important to remember to keep love at the forefront of everything that you do. But then, as well, responsibility. And I think that's something that in our Black community, we were lacking a little bit. You talked a little bit about missing parents in your life, your father missing. You're not the only one. There's so many of us out here that grew up without a father in the home, sometimes without a mother in the home. Um, Different dynamics in the family. It's really important to remember that we saw a lot of lack of responsibility
Mm-hmm.
growing up. So I definitely I have to shout you out, big you up for what you're doing because you have two Black sons coming up, and that is super important. For them to be 10 and 12, to have that kind of a backbone, to see responsibility and to see that love is definitely going to propel their lives in so many different avenues that you will definitely be proud of.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to end this live and then I'm going to start up another one because they only give us about an hour. So we've
Okay.
already been on for an hour. So I'm going to end it and then I'll jump back on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you.
All right.
Okay, guys, log back on in like 2 minutes.